Imagine finding a jacket that works like a magic ATM. You reach into the pocket and pull out a banknote. You reach in again, and another one appears. Infinite wealth. Sounds like the ultimate dream, doesn't it? However, in this story, Dino Buzzati, the master of Italian magical realism, asks a terrifying question. If matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred, then where is that money coming from? More importantly, if you are getting paid without working, who is paying the price? This is the story of a man who got everything he wanted, only to realize he was paying for it with other people's blood. It began at a party. I was admiring a man's suit. It was cut with exquisite perfection. The man gave me the address of his tailor, a man named Corticella. When I arrived at the address, I found a strange, small house. Corticella himself was a tiny man with hair like black cotton and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He took my measurements in silence. He didn't ask about my preferences for fabric or style. He simply said, "I know what you need." A month later, the suit arrived. It was a masterpiece of grey wool. It fit me like a second skin. But the moment I put it on, I felt a strange chill, as if a shadow had settled on my shoulders. I ignored it. I looked fantastic. The discovery happened by accident. I was in my office and casually put my hand in my right pocket. I felt a piece of paper. I pulled it out. It was a 10,000 lire note. I was surprised. I hadn't put any money there. I checked the pocket again. Empty. I turned to leave, but on a whim, checked one more time. Another note. 10,000 lire. My heart began to race. I locked the door. I pulled down the blinds. I began to pull. 1 note. 2. 10. 50. The floor was covered in money. I worked with a feverish intensity until my arm ached. By evening, I was a millionaire. I had found the source of eternal happiness, or so I thought. The next morning, I opened the newspaper. The headlines screamed at me. Armored truck robbery. 10 million lire stolen. 1 guard dead. I froze. The amount stolen was exactly what I had taken out of my pocket the night before. I tried to convince myself that it was just a coincidence, just a horrible coincidence. To prove it, I went to my pocket again. I pulled out a small amount, just enough to buy a nice lunch. An hour later, I heard newsboys shouting on the street, "Pensioner mugged for lunch money! Skull fractured!" The truth hit me like a hammer. The pocket wasn't creating money. It was teleporting it. The jacket was a demon. It was stealing from banks, widows, and shopkeepers. Every time I took a note, a crime was committed somewhere in the world. My wealth was directly connected to crime, tragedy, and death. A moral man would have burned the jacket immediately. But I was weak. I told myself, just one more time. I wanted a villa. I wanted a sports car. I wanted women. I moved out of my apartment. I bought a mansion. But the house was cold. The servants looked at me suspiciously. Every night, I read the papers. Warehouse fire. Millions lost. 3 firemen dead. Bank collapse leads to suicides. I was the secret author of all these disasters. I was a serial killer who never touched a weapon. But I couldn't stop. The rustle of banknotes was a song I couldn't resist. Finally, the guilt became too much. An old woman, my neighbor, committed suicide because she lost her savings. Those savings were currently sitting in my wallet. "Enough!" I screamed. I drove to a remote forest. I took off the bewitched jacket. I doused it in gasoline. As I lit the match, I heard a voice. It wasn't from the forest, but from the flames. "Too late! Too late!" the tailor hissed. The jacket burned. It turned to ash. I drove home, relieved I was poor again, but I was free, or so I thought. When I returned to my mansion, the police were waiting for me. "Everything is gone," they said. "Your assets have been seized. Your money has turned to dust." But that wasn't the worst part. They weren't just there for the money. "We know," the officer said. "We don't know how you did it, but we know you're responsible." I lost everything: my house, my car, my friends. Now I live in a small, freezing attic. I work as a laborer just to afford food. But the poverty isn't the punishment. The real punishment is knowing where Corticella is. Sometimes at night, I see him lurking in the shadows of my room. He smiles. He is sewing. He's making a new jacket. For you.